Croesus was the king of Lydia who, according to Herodotus, reigned for 14 years, from 560 BC until his defeat by the Persian king Cyrus the Great in 546 BC. Croesus was renowned for his wealth. Herodotus and Pausanias noted his gifts were preserved at Delphi. The fall of Croesus made a profound impact on the Greeks, providing a fixed point in their calendar. By the 5th century at least, Jas. Evans has remarked, Croesus had become a figure of myth, who stood outside the conventional restraints of chronology, legendary biography. Aside from a poetical account of Croesus on the pyre in Bacchylides, there are 3 classical accounts of Croesus. Herodotus presents the Lydian accounts of the conversation with Solon, the tragedy of Croesus son Atys and the fall of Croesus. Xenophon instances Croesus in his panegyric fictionalized biography of Cyrus. Cyropedia 7.1, and Ctesias, whose account is also an encomium of Cyrus. Croesus is credited with issuing the first true gold coins with a standardized purity for general circulation. However, they were quite crude, and were made of electrum, a naturally occurring pale yellow alloy of gold and silver. The composition of these first coins was similar to alluvial deposits found in the silt of the Pactolus River, which ran through the Lydian capital, Sardis. Later coins, including some in the British Museum, were made from gold purified by heating with common salt to remove the silver. King Croesus gold coins follow the first silver coins that had been minted by King Phidon of Argos around 700 BC. In Greek and Persian cultures the name of Croesus became a synonym for a wealthy man. Croesus' wealth remained proverbial beyond classical antiquity. In English, expressions such as rich as Croesus or richer than Croesus are used to indicate great wealth to this day. The earliest known such usage in English was John Gower's in Confessio Amantis, that if the treasure of Croesus now the gold octovine, forthwith the richess or Indian of pearlies and of rich stones, were altogether myn at ones. Interview with Solon. The episode of Croesus or interview with Solon. According to Herodotus, Croesus encountered the Greek sage Solon and showed him his enormous wealth. Croesus, secure in his own wealth and happiness, asks Solon who the happiest man in the world is, and is disappointed by Solon's response that 3 have been happier than Croesus: Tellus, who died fighting for his country, and Cleobis and Biton, brothers who died peacefully in their sleep when their mother prayed for their perfect happiness after they had demonstrated filial piety by drawing her to a festival in an ox cart themselves. Solon goes on to explain that Croesus cannot be the happiest man because the fickleness of fortune means that the happiness of a man's life cannot be judged until after his death. Sure enough, Croesus' hubristic happiness was reversed by the tragic deaths of his accidentally killed son and, in Croesus, his wife's suicide at the fall of Sardis, not to mention his defeat at the hands of the Persians. The interview is in the nature of a philosophical disquisition on the subject, which man is happy. It is legendary rather than historical. Thus the happiness of Croesus is presented as a moralistic exemplum of the fickleness of Tyche, a theme that gathered strength from the 4th century, revealing its late date. The story was later retold and elaborated by Ausonius in The Mask of the Seven Sages, in the Suda, and by Tolstoy in his short story Croesus and Fate. Death of son. According to legend, Croesus gave refuge at one point to the Phrygian prince Adrastus. Herodotus tells that Adrastus exiled himself to Lydia after accidentally killing his brother. Croesus later experienced a dream for which he took his prophecy, in which Atys, his son and heir, would be killed by an iron spearhead. Taking precautions against this, Croesus kept his son from leading in military expeditions and fighting in any way. However, according to Herodotus, a wild boar began to ravage the neighboring province of Mysia, which soon begged Croesus to send a military expedition led by Atys to kill the boar. Croesus thought this would be safe for his son, as Atys wouldn't be fighting an enemy that could throw a spear. However, he sent Adrastus with Atys as a bodyguard in case they would be waylaid by bandits on the expedition. While fighting the boar, Adrastus accidentally hit Atys with his spear, killing him. Croesus absolved Adrastus for his son's death. However, Adrastus later committed suicide. Campaign against Persia and testing of Oracle. Croesus' uneasy relations with the Greeks obscures the larger fact that he was the last bastion of the Ionian cities against the increasing Persian power in Anatolia. He began preparing a campaign against Cyrus the Great of Persia. Before setting out, he turned to the Delphic oracle and the oracle of Amphiaraus to inquire whether he should pursue this campaign and whether he should also seek an alliance. The oracles answered, with typical ambiguity, that if Croesus attacked the Persians, he would destroy a great empire. This would become one of the most famous oracular statements from Delphi. The oracles also advised Croesus to find out which Greek state was most powerful and to ally himself with it. Croesus, now feeling secure, formed an alliance with Sparta in addition to those he had with Amasis II of Egypt and Nabonidus of Babylonia, and launched his campaign against the Persian Empire in 547 BC. He was intercepted near the Halys River in central Anatolia and an inconclusive battle was fought. It was the usual practice in those days for the armies to disband for winter, and Croesus did so accordingly. Cyrus did not, however, and he attacked Croesus in Sardis, capturing him. It became clear that the powerful empire destroyed by the war was Croesus's own. Rescue from death. An advisor to Cyrus by 546 BC, Croesus was defeated and captured by the Persians. According to various accounts of Croesus's life, Cyrus ordered him to be burned to death on a pyre, but Croesus escaped death. The nature of his escape varies considerably. In Bacchylides' ode, Croesus with his wife and family mounted the funeral pyre, but before the flames could envelop the king, he was snatched up by Apollo and spirited away to the Hyperboreans. Herodotus tells us that in the Lydian account, Croesus was placed upon a great pyre by Cyrus' orders, for Cyrus wanted to see if any of the heavenly powers would appear to save him from being burned alive. The pile was set ablaze, and as Cyrus the Great watched, he saw Croesus call out, "Solon," 3 times. He asked the interpreters to find out why he said this word with such resignation and agony. The interpreters returned the answer that Solon had warned Croesus of the fickleness of good fortune. This touched Cyrus, who realized that he and Croesus were much the same man, and he bade the servants to quench the blazing fire as quickly as they could. They tried to do this, but the flames were not to be mastered. According to the story, Croesus called out to Apollo and prayed to him. The sky had been clear and the day without a breath of wind. But soon dark clouds gathered and a storm with rain of such violence that the flames were speedily extinguished. Cyrus, thus convinced that Croesus was a good man, made him an advisor who served Cyrus well, and later Cyrus's son by Casundane, Cambyses. Recently, Stephanie West has argued that the historical Croesus did in fact die on the pyre. After defeating Croesus, the Persians adopted gold as the main metal for their coins. Death. It is not known when exactly Croesus died, although it is traditionally dated 547 BC, after Cyrus' conquest. In the Nabonidus Chronicle it is said that Cyrus marched against the country, killed its king, took his possessions, put there a garrison of his own, Unfortunately, all that remains of the name of the country are traces of the first cuneiform sign. It has long been assumed that this sign should have been Lu, so that the country referred to would be Lydia, with Croesus as the king that was killed. However, Cargill has shown that this restoration was based upon wishful thinking rather than actual traces of the sign Lu. Instead, Olsner and R. Rollinger have both read the sign as U, which might imply a reference to Uritu, with Herodotus' account also being unreliable chronologically in this case, as J.A.S. Evans has demonstrated. This means that we have no way of dating the fall of Sardis. Theoretically, it may even have taken place after the fall of Babylon. Evans also asks what happened after the episode at the pyre and suggests that neither the Greeks nor the Babylonians knew what really happened to Croesus.